Sound speeds, and welcome back to a Speed Bumps podcast episode. This one is done in 360. Why? Because I can. There's really no other reason. I'm just doing it because there's enough daylight to actually show everything exposed properly if I do it in 360 mode, and it's not going to get too late in the day. It may run into a little bit of traffic, but regardless, I think it's going to be a fun day to do this as a 360 video. Part of the reason is because I'm officially announcing that for the year of 2023 at least, I'm going to be doing a Speed Bumps podcast episode once every other week. So you're going to have an episode of Speed Bumps, then you're going to have an episode of regular Sound Speeds content. And we're going to see how well it goes for the year of 2023. Since everything pertains to production sound, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? That I can get away with doing a podcast on this channel because it is involving information from a production sound perspective. Now, as of the time of this video, I think it is Tuesday, April 4th, and I still don't have a full-time show. So I'm going to be driving home from classes I'm teaching at my Union Hall. And that's great because I love teaching. As you guys know, I teach constantly, and I love teaching at the Union Hall to union members. So I am going to be, for the next few days at least, while I'm driving home from teaching those classes, provided my voice doesn't cut out, because I'm like nonstop teaching for like 6 hours a day, and then come home and speak in my car, we're going to see if I can keep this thing going. And no guarantees, because if we run out of episodes before I get a show, we'll see what happens. But regardless, welcome back to yet another episode of Speed Bumps. Let's get into our first topic. Ever since I released my videos about accessories to help hide lavalier microphones on people, I have been asked routinely about my workflow and what products I like to use and when. And for this video, I thought I would start out by talking about just that. Now, I'm not going to mention my personal preferences because I don't want my preferences to become your preferences simply because it's something I like. To me, it's not about me, it's about you liking what you like for your own reasons. And I don't want my ideas and thoughts to rub off on you like you believe that this is the right way to do it simply because I'm saying that that's what I do. Everybody is different. Everybody has certain techniques that they like. Let me start off by saying if I'm day playing for someone, I like to find out what they are doing already so that way I can copy whatever their workflow has established. If actors and actresses like to have certain accessories, like maybe an RM11 on a COS 11, they like to have that. They always get that. They're familiar with that, and that's what makes them comfortable. Then that's what I'm going to give them. If they like to have a ankle strap for the transmitter always on the right ankle, I'm going to always put it on the right ankle. I'm not going to put it on the left just to mix things up. I'm not going to do it my own way unless it's a different situation altogether. If I got to put a lav pack on someone's ankle, I will go to the leg that they are preferred. And I'm not going to use different accessories if I can help it. If I'm day playing for someone, I'm going to have the sound mixers equipment available to me, so I might as well just use the same things that their regular sound mixer is, because I'm coming in there just to day play and fill in. I don't need to disrupt everything and the whole workflow changes just because I'm there. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not going to make the actors feel comfortable. So that is my philosophy on day playing. Now, if I'm coming in as a full-time person that's going to be laving up people, a little bit different. And yes, you may say you're a boom operator, you don't do that. Well, there are some times I have done reality shows in the past. There have been some times I've taken on small projects or done a few days on a show that when they come to Atlanta, or it might be the Atlanta portion of a show, and for whatever reason, I might end up doing the lavs. Maybe the utility isn't that experienced or something like that with lav placement. So I've done that. I've also, but regardless, I don't need to give a whole bunch of examples, but you get where I'm going with this, that there could be a whole bunch of different reasons why I am doing things the way that I do in my workflow. But as a general rule, I am very much of the old school mentality of using moleskin. I like moleskin. It's very, very minimal. It doesn't require a whole lot. You don't have to use special adhesives. You don't have to use special products. As long as you have yourself some sort of a pharmacy that has moleskin, you're in good shape. Now, there are moleskins that you can actually hear through, much more acoustically transparent than Dr. Scholl's, for example. If I do use Dr. Scholl's, it's got to be unmedicated. You don't want to use a medicated moleskin for any reason because it could irritate people's skin. It doesn't need to be medicated. Plain and simple. Don't need to put medicated anything on anyone. They don't need the medicine. All they need is a sticky for a lavalier to hold in place. Now, it can be Dr. Scholl's. It can be, well, any one of the major brands. Ursa makes a really good tape. Viviana makes a really good tape. I really like the different tapes, especially those that are released by sound companies. I will usually default to a lavalier and cover it over with a piece of moleskin. I usually don't put anything else on there. If I got to put a windscreen on there, I will. If I have to baffle it because we're hearing a bit of a heartbeat, I will add, usually I'll go to a moleskin sandwich. I'll add another piece of moleskin on the bottom and I will sandwich the lav between them, and that's usually my first go-to. If I got to go more than that, I might end up resorting to something like foam or an accessory. At that point, I will usually grab for a piece of disposable foam first, not because I want to destroy the planet, but because to me, it allows me the versatility of placing it how I want it to be. I may choose to put a piece of foam down and then put the lavalier on top of that and then put a piece of moleskin on top of that. I may choose that because of the wardrobe and the color schemes I have available, I may choose to put down the piece of moleskin first with the lavalier and then the foam on top to help isolate it from the clothes a little bit. It just depends on the situation. The word depends plays a lot into what I do and how I do it. It's not as blanket as just, I'm going to use this microphone on this person all the time, regardless of what they're wearing. It's not really that simple. There may be a call for a lower profile microphone. There may be a call for a different colored lavalier. Now, some people will say, match the color of their shirt to the microphone. I don't necessarily do that unless the shirt can't be seen through. If it's a completely white shirt or a black shirt or something like that, I may end up doing that just because it's going to blend in with the shirt just fine, especially if it's like a shirt like this that unbuttons and it has a layer for you to put it in. I may do something like that because there's no way you're going to see through this seam because this is double thick. And then if I put something between there, as long as you put a piece of like Joe Sticky stuff or something like an adhesive from one of the companies, Hydamike, for example, you would put, as long as you stick it on there and it keeps the material down, you should be in good shape. But the main point that I'm making here is that I'm going to try to use as minimal accessories as possible. If I end up resorting to something, I will usually grab for something low profile if that's an option first off. If I go for an accessory, I wouldn't mind using one of the ones that's a Hydamike inside of a tie. I wouldn't mind using one of the Ursa mini mounts. Those are really good. Things like that, I usually try to stay as low profile as possible. If I end up having to add wind protection or something like that, I will usually add it in the form of a disposable product, more like a Rycoat overcover, or I'll use one of the one of the accessories that you saw that I don't really want to call favorites and start talking about the furs and all the different things, like the Bumblebee fur. I'll tell you the piece of fur I really like. I like all the different furs actually, because I think that they all feel really good. They all cut very evenly. And if they're made specifically for sound use, they're going to be acoustically transparent and easy to work with without leaving a whole bunch of little fabric pieces that go all over the whole wardrobe. That's not really a good thing when that happens. So what I will usually do is try to be minimal as much as possible. Sorry, it's getting kind of bright out here. And in order to do that, I will look at their wardrobe, I'll figure out where I want to hide the microphone, and then I will come up with a game plan on how I want to attach it. Depending on the lavalier microphone, if it's a DPA, I'll go for usually a slightly wider piece that's skinnier. If I use more like a COS 11, I'll use a skinnier piece because it's taller. I don't want there to be too much adhesive on someone, but I want there to be enough that it will hold on to them very well if they are to move around or something like that. If it is in any way going to be wet outside, humidity-wise, raining-wise, or if an actor's sweating a whole lot for a scene or any of the above, then what I will usually want to do is put some sort of if the lavalier, for example, keeps falling off of them, at that point then I'm not just going to resort to the clothing. I will usually try to see if I can put some sort of a skin prep on their skin. Now, some skin preps, like the Smith & Nephew one, it is just a skin prep that kind of preps the surface and adds like a little layer to the surface of your skin, so that way it will resist perspiration a little bit. It will allow you to put something like a moleskin on without it falling off. That comes in handy a whole lot. Now, if I really want to go into beast mode, because even that's not really working, then there's always the skin prep. There's And then there's also tack away. So there's skin tack and tack away, two beast mode products that are really awesome. Skin tack, if you're not familiar with it, it will basically turn your skin into the stickiest surface you've ever felt in your life. Why would you want to do that? Well, first of all, you don't want to take the whole sticky pad off of that and then wipe somebody's entire chest with it, for example. Do this big whole huge thing and then make it all sticky. You want to, first of all, don't pick it up with your fingers if you can avoid it, because it's extremely sticky and it will take multiple runs of using the tack away to remove and washing your hand with soap and water, with hot water I might add, in order to get it off of there. What you will want to do is break the seam on this skin tack just a little bit. If you can, reveal just a corner of it, and then take just that corner and put a little dab of it right where you want it to go. A little dab, no bigger than like the fingernail. Seriously. A fingernail size is all it's going to take when it makes that extremely sticky. And as long as that is about centered where you want your lavalier microphone to be, maybe not this fingernail, maybe this fingernail, a little bit bigger. But if you were to take just the corner and you were to put that right on where you want it to stick, it will turn that into an extremely tacky surface. Then it will stick on top of, and then like any accessory basically on top of it with any adhesive will stick like glue to the skin and not fall off. Trust me on that one. It's not going to fall off. But if you get it on your fingers, it will be sticky for a long time, and you'll have to go through multiple tack away pads in order to get it to go away. And you only need the tiniest little bit. So it may seem wasteful, but trust me when I say, if they made smaller pads, I would use them, because the regular tack away strips that are this big or something like that, they're more than enough for you to ever get great results out of sticking something down. The purpose behind these is in the medical field. If you were to put bandages or something like that, or for an IV and you need to prepare the skin, something like the Smith & Nephew one, which is just a skin prep, would go great on there and allow you to put they would put the tape on top to hold in an IV. Now, the skin tack is beast mode, like I keep saying. That is like heavy duty. That thing's not going anywhere. It's going to stay forever, or until you use a piece of tack away, and even then it's going to be still sticky. So that is like, if you have someone that nothing else is working on, that's the one that will defeat any and everything adhesive, or any and everything that is water based. You might want to take an alcohol swab, prep the skin just to at least wipe off any oils or something like that from that. Then the little tiniest bit of the skin tack on there, and then from there, put the moleskin or something on or the RM11 or the mini mount or the what have you. If I'm putting a microphone on someone's t-shirt, then I'm going to try to, if I can, I mean, I don't want to get it up too high because it gets throaty. I really hope that they have some sort of design on the shirt and not one that you can't hear through very well. Hopefully any designs on the shirt would be printed into the material, maybe even dyed, so that way it doesn't affect the transparency of the lavalier that's underneath the clothing. Because if it starts to affect the sound, it's not good. You can choose lavalier microphones that help to punch through that a little bit if you want, but I prefer not to do that if I really don't have to, unless a mixer says to do it. And the reason why is because I prefer to have it less layers on it. I would prefer to just let it do what it's supposed to do and not be all gunked down with all kinds of materials. If I have to add wind protection, I will do so as needed. If I know it's a breezy day, I may go ahead and put it under a layer or two of something where I could prep it better and more easily with something like a Fur Outdoor or a Rycoat overcover, something that will help to buffer it up just a little bit. That's usually what I'm going to try to do. As a rule, though, I will try to go to the skin if at all possible. Some talent have they just do not want you to go. They do not want you to go to their skin at all. That was fun. They would much prefer you to go to clothing, and that's because they don't want to have adhesives on their body. And that's perfectly fine if that's the way that they want to do things. It's completely your choice. The thing is, though, I really don't want to get into the habit of letting actors have me dictate to me how I want to place the lavalier to get the best results. Now, granted, you could say it's on their bodies. That's true. I really don't want an actor, though, to tell me it's got to be on the clothing every single time. because if they're wearing a t-shirt, it's going to be difficult to get on there without it showing up. There are tricks you can use to prevent a t-shirt from showing up when you stick an adhesive on there. As a rule, though, I try not to let an actor. I will ask them if they're okay. If they say can't stick anything to my skin, usually then I will try to resort to more of a sticking it to something that is connected up to them. For example, the chest strap. I will try to put a chest strap around their chest if I can, as opposed to sticking it on skin, simply because it gives you something that gives you more flexibility. If you want to use an adhesive, you can. If you want to use an Arm 11, you can. If you want to just stick the lavalier inside the chest strap, you can. The biggest problem is going to be if the actor turns their back and bends over and the skin of their back is pulled flat on the inside of their shirt. That's when you're going to end up having it be something like, it could look like a bra back there. And on men that are wearing a fairly skin-tight shirt, it might be something that makes them a little bit nervous about having. They may say, I don't want to make it look like I have a bra. I'm wearing a bra in a scene. I understand completely. But at the same time, I still have to place the lavalier microphone on someone. So, sorry, I was looking at something. But, so if I can, I will get away with a chest strap, because that I would prefer not to stick it to their, if I can't stick it to their skin, I would prefer to stick it to that as opposed to clothing, because it would add a layer. If you stick things to an actual material and it's not something like this where there's a designated hiding place, could be a problem. Now, women have a bra, and I usually like to place a lavalier microphone inside the bra with no adhesives on there. Usually, the same thing that's on the inside of the thigh straps on the Ursa and the Vivianas, the polyurethane strip, that same kind of technology is used on bras to help hold it in place, to hold everything in place. There's little bits of polyurethane on there, and different kind of elastic type, almost kind of like a self-adhesive bandage that you can buy over the counter that's disposable. Use a couple of times and toss out. Something like that really comes in handy too, because if you can't put a thigh or strap or an ankle strap, or you need it to be a different size, you can use those. So keep those in mind as well. But back to the bra. If I can, what I will do is I'll have the ladies run and stick the actual lavalier in here and then coming up the cup. So that way it pokes out ever so slightly on one side. On the inside, it comes up, and then it's held by one side or the other right here on the inside. And then as for the cable, I'll have them tuck it underneath the bra and then run it down the side. You don't want cables to go down the front, because if you do that, you're going to see it through shirts. So all it takes is someone moving to reveal a wire there, and then they're going to say, the person's wire. We can't do that. We can't have that. I see it on camera. So run the cable down the side. It's so much better. I think as a general rule, that's my workflow and what I like to do. I try to put adhesives directly to someone. If they say they can't have a certain adhesive, or they say, no, you can't stick anything to me, I'm very sensitive to it, I'll say, let me show you one thing. And I'll show them one of the more delicate adhesives. I'll show them something more like, let's say, the Viviana moleskin. And I'll say, try a little bit of this. Would you check this out, look at it, and you see how you can take this and stick it on your hand there, on the back of your hand, or I'll put it on the back of, take half of it, stick it on my hand, and say, you see how this is? What would you think about something like that? And if they say, no, it's just when you pull it off, it reveals a red spot, and I don't want that to happen. That's when I'll go to an appliance, if I can't go to the clothing itself, because it's like a t-shirt, it's very thin, something like that. That's generally my philosophy regarding wires. So hopefully that helped. For the second topic in this video, I thought I would discuss how to break into the sound industry, how to break into the film industry as a whole, you could say. Well, here is a general rule of what I tell people if they want to break into sound. You have to really want it. You have to dedicate yourself to the idea of breaking into sound, because if it's one of a bunch of different crafts, if let's say you're like, I'm either thinking about being a sound person or a grip, there's probably going to be more opportunities for a grip to break into the film industry, because on the bigger shows, for example, they might not just have a team of 6 or 7 grips. They might have a team of 18 grips, and they might want additionals if you go outside and you have specialty rigs that need to happen, or multiple units, and they need another big, huge grip team, something like that. could be a situation where you come in for an additional and they say, when we hear something get called, I'll hand it to you. You run it to the person on set and hand it to them. That's all you are as a runner, and that's at least cutting your teeth. The sound utility position is technically the entry-level job to the film industry in the sound department, but it is still one that requires a lot of experience, or at least skills. And if you don't have those skills, how are you going to get the job? So it's kind of a catch-22. It can be difficult, which means you have to go into more indies or smaller projects. Then you're probably going to be able to cut your teeth and get in. But then you have to be careful of not being abused. That's why I did the video called Avoiding Indie Abuse. Now, when it comes down to how to actually get in there, how to get into the world of sound, I usually tell people two things. They're both starting with the letter M, so you can say Eminem, like the rapper, and that is mingle and master your craft. By mingling, I mean talk to other sound people. Now, I'm not suggesting go to the local sound stages, jump the security fence and try to find the sound department, sound mixer, and talk to them. Not at all. If you're in a big city or you're in a city where there's other sound people, what you might consider doing is seeing what your options are regarding finding a group of those people on social media. There may be a group on social media for your city. If there is for like sound people of blank city, let's say, whatever that city happens to be. And if you do a couple of searches, you might be able to find it, especially on like something like Facebook. And if not, then you can always go into JW Sound, do a search for JW Sound online, and do a post in there and ask if there's any sound people in your city. If you can, try to make friends with them. They're already working in the industry. That would be a good asset. So take them out to lunch, take them out for a coffee, something like that. See if you can meet up with them and maybe pick their brain for a little bit. If you can, shadow them. That means you show up on set, you follow them around or follow around their sound utility or boom operator, and you see how they do things. Ask questions. Don't just show up there and play on your phone. Make it worth their time because they are giving you their time. So you want to ask questions and utilize it effectively. You are not going to be allowed to do any work because if you are not an employee of the show, you're not on the insurance. Therefore, you should not be working. Only people that are on the show and hired for that job should be working on it. So you want to make sure you do not work. Even if they say, hey, can you give us help with this cart? What happens if you push too hard to push the cart and it falls over? Break something. Well, if you were seen doing that and you're just a shadow, you're in trouble. So don't go there. Just say, I don't think that's a good idea. I'd rather not risk anything of your equipment. I respect your equipment too much and don't want to risk it. So if you can, shadow someone. If you can't, talk to them on the phone. The very least, I would say, know the sound people in your area. If you can talk to them on the phone, cool. If not, talk to whoever you can talk to. Reach out to other people who, like on sound forums, for example. If you, I don't suggest going in there and posting all your questions, but what I would say is you can go to one of those sound forums, or even like my Discord server, for example, and start listening to what people are talking about. Involve yourself in the conversation. Listen to what people say about different things. If a product comes out, people are all talking about an issue with it, then a product firmware update comes up that fixes everything and everyone's excited. Know about that. Remember that. So that way if anyone you run into has that issue, you at least have that knowledge in your mind. Oh, did you do the firmware update? You would know that then. So there would be a fix for it and you wouldn't have to be worried about it. If there is any concern you have about any aspect of sound, I would say if you can find the answer inside of the manual for that product, whatever it is that you're concerned about, if it's a recorder, for example, or a microphone that's used for booming, something like that, a lavalier microphone, a transmitter, whatever it happens to be, if you can find the answer inside the manual, it's better for you to do that than to just make a list of questions and then go on one of the sound forums and just ask that. You're more likely to be made fun of, maybe hazed, something like that, if you just come out there with a blanket of like 30 questions. It's one of those things where people would rather you ask the questions you can't find the answer to and utilize your resources that way. Much better off. Now that is mingling. Mingling with people that do what you want to do. If you have a sound vendor in your city, hang out there a little bit and talk to the people that walk in the door. Introduce yourself if you need to, and you say, oh, you're a sound mixer. Cool. My name is Alan. I would like to, hey, let's talk sound. So what kind of shows you work on? and they'll start to tell you. And you say, oh, cool, I'm trying to cut my teeth on that. Or would you allow me to shadow you on set? Something like that. That is part of mingling. If there's any events in your city, and you could also ask them if there's any forums online you need to be that you should be a member of if you want to do their craft. They may say, oh yeah, there's a hidden group. I'll add you to it if you give me your information. If there is any kind of gatherings in that city, it's good for you to show up and make your face known. Make people know your name, make people know your face, because that's going to be something that they're going to find that they're going to like you much better if they know you, and they'll actually be much more willing to actually call you about something if they need like someone to come in, for example, as a fourth on a sound team, just to put down carpets for footsteps or to pad heels or something like that. They may bring you in as an additional for whatever reason. It's good to have those contacts and to know people and occasionally touch base with them. Something like that is very beneficial. Now, the other thing is master your craft. That would mean if you have a local sound vendor, walk in there, introduce yourself to them, start looking at the gear, and go through the manual of that gear. Start to look at things, look at the firmware updates, start to look at the different things you can do with the microphone or with the recorder or the transmitter, whatever it happens to be. Understand that gear inside and out as best as you possibly can, and remember. And then from there, try to understand the differences between those and similar other products. If it's a microphone, try to understand what the different microphone patterns sound like and what the different microphones sound like. Some may be brighter, some may be darker, some may have more reach than others, that kind of thing. Now, if you are using a product and it just seems like it doesn't work as effectively, but you see other people talking about it, your opinion can be different than someone else's, but if they're trying to hire you, they probably want you to share their opinion. If nothing else, at least know what they like about it. It's a good idea to, even if you don't like the product yourself for whatever reason. But becoming familiar with the gear itself is part of understanding the craft. Mingling with people and understanding the products themselves is very beneficial. Now, I have a lot of tutorials on this website, on SoundSpeeds rather, that are resources about education and how to do things. Watch my 3BO series for boom operators, even if you're a sound utility, and you're going to learn things like set etiquette and what to do and how. But I can tell you right now, if you're interested in doing sound, you need to be very aware that that sound people like you to be very involved. They like you to be very dedicated to the craft. If you are someone that is interested in being a grip and someone that's interested in being in sound, you'll have more opportunities to get on as a grip than you will a sound person. So they would want you to be a diehard about sound before they call you, most likely. You may luck out and get a call from a sound person first. More than likely, if you've introduced yourself to the sound people and you've introduced yourself to the grips, you'll get a call usually from the grips first. That's just a little bit of that. But my general advice is mingle and master your craft, and those two things are going to help you tremendously. Don't feel entitled to working if you join a union. Don't feel like someone owes you and you need to join because you shadowed them a couple of times or helped them with projects on the weekend while they were teaching you something. Don't feel like anyone owes you anything. Don't feel like someone should hire you simply because you're you and you have all this knowledge and experience or whatever. That doesn't work. Right now, even as we speak, there are people with less experience than me working because they are on a team with a sound person, a sound mixer that got a show, and I'm not on that show with them. I'm not on with that mixer the way they are. They're loyal. Their loyalty is mutually beneficial to them. So they're working because they are working on a team that happens to have a show. So there you have it. That was yet another episode of the Speed Bumps podcast. I thank you for tuning in, and I don't think I'll be doing another 360 episode. I can only imagine in the future the rendering time and whether or not this thing drifted as I made turns. I'm gonna try to make it dial in on my face. Who knows if I'll be able to or not? Who knows if I'm going to be able to get it to look proper without it flowing all over the place and changing the shot? I don't know. All I know is that it will be fun to do, and I hope you enjoyed watching this episode. Thanks for tuning in this episode of the Speed Bumps podcast, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
If you'd like to ask a sound-related question to be answered in a future episode, send text, audio, or video to ssp@soundspeeds.us. Want to record this outro? Details in the description below. Find us on social media and online at www.soundspeeds.us. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more sound-related content.